Thank you so much for being here today for this. I really, really appreciate it. We had our first installment of this concert on Friday night. I'm so delighted to be able to do it again and to have you all here. There's one question I get frequently being a pianist, and that is, who's your favorite composer? And most of the time I say I don't have one, or I say whichever composer I'm playing at that moment, that's my favorite. But occasionally I get some persistent person who says, okay, well, if you're on a deserted island and you can only take one composer's music with you, who's it going to be?
Schubert.
Thank you. I find myself answering Schubert on these a couple occasions that this happens, and without thought. So I found that kind of interesting, that sort of natural love that I have for this composer comes out in those moments. And I think it's this this connection that gave rise to this project, which I'm excited to start today. The other thing that gave rise to this project is this place, Kerrytown Concert House. In Schubert's 31 years, he really enjoyed the company of friends and playing and sharing his music in their homes. And it may not be a secret at this point, in Ann Arbor, one of the things I love to do is play concerts in homes. And so welcome to Kerrytown Schubertiad this afternoon, where we gather as friends to celebrate the music of this wonderful composer. And I'm particularly thrilled that my friend and esteemed musicologist Stephen Whiting has agreed to join me this afternoon to further illuminate the music for us. So let's get the show going, and please welcome Stephen.
Thank you, Joel. Good afternoon. It's been a while since I've been in a classroom, so let me set the volume level. Is it audible?
Yeah.
Okay? All right, good. Yes, I am a musicologist who, over the past decade, has happily collaborated with Joel on projects devoted to Beethoven, Bach, and Brahms. Now I get to move with him past the 3 B's. If your program is near to hand, you might want to pull it over for reference. I taught music history for 30 years at our local university. A historian's first inclination when trying to make sense of things is to put them into chronological order. That is not a performing artist's first inclination when trying to fashion a compelling public musical offering. The earliest work on today's program is the last item Joe will perform, the so-called Wanderer Fantasy, which Schubert finished in November of 1822. The Wanderer Fantasy marked his breakthrough into large-scale virtuosic piano writing. It will quite rightly culminate the smaller scale character pieces that make up the rest of this program. But those character pieces will make better sense to us if we consider a certain biographical event that followed the Wanderer Fantasy. A serious illness that beset Schubert in late 1822 or early 1823, after which he disappeared from public view for nearly 7 months. 19th century biographers were too tactful to say so, but the scholarly consensus for many decades has been that Schubert contracted some form of venereal disease, probably syphilis, which was all too common in Vienna without its being very well understood. This infirmity would overshadow the remaining 6 years of Schubert's life, waxing and waning unpredictably, and complicated by the circumstance that the standard treatment for it, the application of mercury all over the body, was itself lethal. In letters to friends, Schubert was frank about his condition. Even though he would claim to be fairly well by August 1823, he confessed doubt about whether I shall ever quite recover. Sure enough, by the end of March 1824, he was calling himself, quote, the most wretched and unhappy creature in the world. Think of a man whose health will never be right again, and who, in sheer despair over this, always makes things worse instead of better. Several sentences later, he quotes Gretchen's song at the spinning wheel from Goethe's Faust, which he had set to music as a 17-year-old. My peace is gone, my heart is sore. I shall find it never, never more. He continues, I may well sing this every day now, for every night when I go to bed, I hope I may not wake again, and every morning only recalls yesterday's grief. What was the creative impact? We'll ponder this question as long as we ponder Schubert's music. A grad school chum of mine named Jonathan Bellman did notice a certain pattern. Once Schubert was afflicted with an illness that separated him from society, he began referring to a musical idiom associated with a different group of social outsiders. Gypsies, as we used to call the Sinti and Romani people. The first instance of this musical exoticism in Schubert was a piece we'll be hearing today. This piece was first printed under the title Air Russe, Russian tune, in a promotional anthology issued by Schubert's publisher in December 1823, but we know it, of course, as the third of the 6 Moments musicaux. A later example of this exoticism is more securely linked to Hungary, where gypsies were thought back then to have originated. Schubert spent the summer of 1824 as a music master to the Esterházys, one of the most powerful families in Hungary, known for their employment of Joseph Haydn. Of course, and then they were vacationing at their summer estate in Hungary. Schubert delayed his arrival so that he could hear the first performances of Beethoven's Ninth back in Vienna in May of 1824. But on September 2nd, Schubert wrote out the first piece on today's program, calling it a Hungarian melody.